So Tony Dungy, who of course coached the Colts and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the Colts against the Patriots ranks Tom Brady sixth in modern era quarterbacks. Now, he also ranked your former quarterback, John Elway, as the greatest quarterback in the modern era. When you see, let's just take a snapshot of Tony Dungy, what's your first reaction?
Well, my first reaction is Tom Brady being sixth overall is ridiculous. I mean, the guy's got 5 championships. He's been to 7 Super Bowls, for crying out loud. And I think you have to put that level of success and how he's done it. You have to put that as one of your top top things that you rank a quarterback by is how he performs in those situations and how many championships he has, whether that's fair or not. That's got to be in there. And I think the other thing I think of is, the New England Patriots have this persona that they have circumvented the rules. And let me just clarify this. Every team, there is not one team out there that hasn't tried to circumvent the rules. It hasn't tried to do something that's not within the necessary or not within the context of the rules, right? Maybe we don't consider it cheating. We consider it gamesmanship. But every team has gone through some of that stuff. So I can see that there may be some hurt feelings or some, bad blood between Tony Dungy and that other organization, the New England Patriots, based on his success level or lack thereof success against that team. So I think that goes into the factoring there. But he talked about the fact that he thought it was tougher to defend a quarterback that could run. Mm-hmm. And he also said in that same article that, you can't separate Belichick from Brady. And my thought is this, you know what? I mean, I think the quarterbacks that he had ahead of him, John Elway went to 5 Super Bowls. He won 2 of them with Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan's a pretty good coach, right? Mike Shanahan's pretty good. I think you look at Dan Marino, Dan Marino had one of the best in the history of maybe Chuck Noll and Terry Bradshaw, right? I mean,
but Dan Marino didn't make the list of the top 5, right?
Right. But I'm just saying, most of these great quarterbacks have had great coaches over of that point in time. If you're using that as a criteria, I just look at it like you can't separate the fact that the Patriots have had so much success even during your time that can't factor in. I mean, you're human. I understand that. And so I just think to not have Tom Brady in there as one of your top quarterbacks, ranked number 6, I think is ridiculous.
Okay, so then who is the most overrated? Like he also didn't have Joe Montana in his top 5, right?
Right.
And Joe Montana, not just 4 Super Bowls, but 4-0 in Super Bowls. But I think it's the tie to Bill Walsh, who's by many people's estimation maybe the greatest coach ever, right? Mm-hmm. And their offense was ahead. Everybody is still catching up and running portions of the West Coast offense, right, which of course was all. But he takes away. I don't care about the number of championships. He's trying to judge the quality of quarterback. He has Steve Young in there as opposed to Joe Montana. So if you're going to put Brady in, and look, in the overall index, Brady's still number 1 based upon these 10 voters. Who would you take down? Who is the guy who you're like, that guy doesn't belong in the class of the others?
Well, again, all subjective, very tough to look at these guys. I mean, it's very tough to not have Joe Montana in there based on what Joe Montana has done. Mm-hmm. And you look at the totality of the career, ability to be accurate, to throw the ball on time. He could scramble around. The scrambling and stuff. There's another thing, and I don't know who I would take out. And who I know Brady would be my number 1, and I played with John Elway, but Brady would be my number 1, just based on what he's been able to accomplish over the course of his career. I would ask you this. You talked about Brady being down there and the tie between or the tie between him and Belichick and the tie between Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. Like, are you saying that that Bill Walsh and Belichick are not, because of the quarterbacks they play with, they're not one of the greatest coaches that's ever coached in the game?
Yeah, no, but you're saying you're making
right.
You're making a very smart argument that I think is lost on a lot of people, which is you can't say that Belichick is partially responsible for the success of Brady and Montana without also saying that Brady and Montana are partially responsible for the success of Bill Walsh and Belichick.
So
it works both ways.
Right. You
correlating arguments, that's hard for a lot of people to understand.
Right, but you couldn't come out and say, okay, now let's rank the top, since 1978, let's rank the top coaches that have ever coached in this league. Are you going to put Bill Belichick at 6th? You're going to move him down
because he had Brady?
Because he had Brady? I just don't. I look at the entire team, and you talked about Troy Aikman with those teams. I mean, I played against those teams when I was with the Redskins, and I'll never forget walking out and look at them, watching their offense warm up. And I was short snapping, right. So I was out early before our offense. This is when I think Norv Turner was coaching us. Had just left Dallas. And you look at their lineup. You talked about Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin, and you had Moose Johnson, and you had Jay Novacek, and I think all 5 guys. You get Tuanay and Nate Newton, and
in their prime, all
right.
of their offensive linemen at some point were Pro Bowlers.
Right, Stepnowski and Eric Williams, and did you have Larry Allen at the time? I mean, it was like I'm watching them warm up, and I was thinking to myself, I played for the Washington Redskins, and we don't have one guy on our offense that could start.
We got no shot.
Like, we're getting our ass kicked. There's just no question about it. And so, I look at what Brady has done. I mean, different offensive lines. Other than Moss, they've had a lot of great players and complimentary guys, from Wes Welker to Edelman to, Deion Branch was a Super Bowl MVP and all these different things. But Gronkowski is great, although he's been hurt a bunch. Mm-hmm. They have not had one guy that he's played with that you would say, boom. I mean, give me the one surefire Hall of Famer.
Well, you said Moss and
Moss. Other than Moss
and
on the
Gronk.
Offensive side of the ball,
and Gronk.
Well, Gronk has been hurt a lot. If Gronk retires today, is he a surefire Hall of Famer?
Yes,
I agree with you. So, never mind.
but
forget that argument. But you know what?
He missed 2 of the Super Bowls. Like of the Super Bowls, they had the greatest comeback in the history of the Super Bowl. He didn't play in that game. So that's
a cast of characters at the running back position. They've just done it with a lot of different personnel groupings. Of course, he's played for 15 years, so of course they're going to have to. But I'm just saying the constant has been Tom Brady has been that good.